End of 2022 and now heading into 2023, I now have my own coach, and in actual fact, I've got a team of people working with me and working for me essentially to be able to help me improve as an athlete. Now, there's a number of reasons for that, and that's what we're going to get into in this video, but 2023 is going to be a year completely different. Obviously, if you followed this channel last year, had a bit of trouble with injury, that's something we really want to avoid. So that's why I've gone out, made the big investment, and ultimately built myself a really strong team around me to make sure that that doesn't happen again and we can get back to performing our best. So without any further ado, let's jump into why I finally hired my own coach. This one I think is a really interesting way to start 2023 because it's setting my year up to be different than what it has been previously. Now, as I said in the introduction, if you followed this channel throughout last year, if you followed the performance vlog series and ultimately what turned into a rehab vlog series, if you want to go check that out, the playlists are up on the channel so you can go have a look through that progress. Basically, I got injured in the end, had a stress fracture, didn't turn out great, and I lost a lot of my training year and my performance year, heavily impacted, and it ultimately ended up not getting me to where I wanted to be at the end of 2022. So definitely time for change, and that's why I've gone away and hired my own team of professionals to be able to help me get through 2023 now, a lot stronger, a lot better, avoid some injury, perform a lot higher level, and ultimately take some of the responsibility off me. And they're really the key themes I'm going to touch on here. And heading back end of last year, I knew I needed some further assistance. Previously, over my athletic career, I've had access to high performance managers in our umpiring sense. We have people in place who help write the programs and the conditioning stuff, and that takes part of the responsibility. But I'll be completely honest, the resources around our setting is not the same as what the players get. From an umpiring sense, we're far less resourced, and what that ends up meaning is that some of the time you're left up to yourself to make decisions around what training you're going to get done in some circumstances. In particular, off-season, pre-season, before we get back as a group, and then your additional conditioning sessions in the week. Like the key sessions are covered, but outside of that, it's kind of like you can go and get people to write stuff. But in my experience, when I've pushed and asked, quite often the lazy response sometimes I get, and it's no fault of anyone's, the lazy response I get is, well, we back you to make the right decision because of your sports science background, and you coach endurance athletes, so you get the conditioning side, and you've done some strength and conditioning work before, so you'll be okay. We'll back you to make the decision. I followed that and probably agreed with it naively for a long period of time, and I reckon that's in the end what potentially has caused the lead up to being significantly injured last year, and maybe in the past, maybe not performing as optimally as what I could, and not realizing, is because I have my own blind spots. Yes, I work with endurance athletes. I train cyclists, runners, triathletes, long course endurance. Very different demands of event and different training to what I actually perform in myself. A lot more stop, start, sprint, change of direction, decision making, all very different components. Yes, there's a heavy endurance component, but compared to an Ironman triathlon, completely different type of event or type of training to be able to get there, and physiology involved. So that's where ultimately my professional knowledge isn't exactly matched up to what I'm trying to achieve athletically. And so, like I said, I'm going to have some blind spots. I'm going to have some areas that I'm weaker on. Strength training side of things, power development, speed development is not something that I specialize in, because I specialize with guys who are going out and doing 9-hour events, not 9-second efforts. And that's ultimately where that's led me down the path of wanting to, and I've been thinking about it for a while, but wanting to recruit and hire a really high quality coach or set of coaches to be able to help me get to where I want to. Now, I joined up with a gym that's based in Australia here. They've just set up in Melbourne for the first time, which is really exciting, which is why I wanted to join them. I've been following their stuff for a while. They're called Athletes Authority. If you head over to my Instagram, you'll be able to follow along the work that I'm doing with them, and I'll tag them in some of the posts and share some of the work I'm doing with those guys specifically on my Instagram, so at @NJ_sportscience. Go check that one out. Really high quality S&C coaches, but the way it's set up is that I don't just have one coach who's controlling everything. They're working with my high performance manager from an umpiring sense to be able to match things up to specific to umpiring, but then they're specializing in my speed, my power, my strength development, as well as overseeing my load management, which is a really critical combination of factors that's going to help me perform better and not get injured again like we did last year, which largely probably came down to a load management issue and me overseeing some of the warning signs, which what I really love about having a coach initially is, and having a team of coaches, I've got people looking out for me in that professional sense, like I do for my athletes. Like sometimes the last thing you want to do, and I've definitely experienced this over the last number of years in terms of my own performance, is sometimes the last thing I think about doing or want to do is focus on writing my own training program, reviewing my training program, analysing the data, all of that, because I've just spent my entire working day, week, month doing that for everyone else. I kind of want to get away and not have to feel like I'm working again. I just want to be an athlete and have a bit of responsibility taken off my shoulders so I can go out and train and just enjoy the process of training. I'm less stressed, I can recover better, all of that. So that's been a big thing, is hand off some of the burden. And it's funny because they actually have their own podcast that they were talking about some of these themes literally the week I started training with them, end of last year and the beginning of December. And one of the quotes from a podcast episode they had was like handing off the big heavy decision. I'll paraphrase a bit here, but handing off the big heavy decisions and not making them my burden is going to make my life and an athlete's life a million times easier. And I've noticed that significantly. My training from a pre-season volume sense in all areas has significantly increased, and I'm recovering better and I'm training better and outperforming what I've previously done, purely, I think, largely on, yes, I've got a really solid training structure in place and good periodization, and the technical parts of that are great. But I just don't have to stress about it. I can just jump into a training week and go, what do I have to do? It's Monday. What do I have to do today? All right, when am I working? When can I get my session done? That's the only thing I have to worry about. I don't have to worry about, well, what am I going to do in that session? And what happens if I'm feeling a bit fatigued and I need to drop, do I drop the volume? Am I changing the session? All of those decisions, not completely taken out of my hands, because we have a two-way dialogue like any coach-athlete relationship should have, to be able to manipulate what's going on to get the best result. But they're doing the bulk of the hard lift, the heavy lifting for me, and I can just come in and provide that individual insight on how I'm going to make it work as best as possible. I've really enjoyed that process so far. Largely the stuff that they're helping develop for me is a lot of my strength and conditioning work, jumping in the gym, lifting. Been seeing some really great progress in the 5 or 6 weeks so far. But it's also an accountability thing. It's having someone there to just check in on you and go, hey, how are you going? I mean, quite often in our umpiring terms, like, we have a lot of people in our squad in training group, and we have one high performance manager, and I completely appreciate how hard it is for them to keep an eye on 60 or 70 different people. It's a lot, plus then they've got their own job outside of that as well. So they're looking after so many different athletes. You can kind of get lost in the crowd a bit. This way, I've got someone who's checking on me quite regularly. I'm catching up with them a couple of times a week. And multiple different coaches as well, which then provides that diversity opinion, which is really important in terms of getting a well-rounded program. The other beauty of joining them is the access to physio as well. Like, that's all included in what I'm doing. So any potential re-injury or any concerns I have about my previous stress fracture injury, or if I feel any symptoms coming back there, that's where it's all linked in together. So the physio knows what the S&C program's like and what my conditioning linked in. These guys have been really great in communicating with the umpiring side of things and the high performance manager of that side to understand the umpiring specific needs, the logistics, and making sure everything matches up. Which, again, all of that communication and going back and forth and going to a physio here and going to a coach, going to a high performance manager here, and then trying to do my own stuff, that's all now just simplified into one place, and I can just contact one person and get the information I need and have the conversations I need to have. So that's been really, really enjoyable over this period. And apart from anything, another thing they mentioned on that podcast that they were talking about, all the various themes around why recruiting a performance coach and things like that is really useful, is at the end of the day, the best way forward and the best result is to get experts to do what they do best. And that's something that I know professionally. That's what happens. Like the athletes who come to work with me and have me coach them, etc., and do testing and consulting for, they're coming to me because I'm the expert on the physiology aspect, the scientific side, problem solving their performance. Why shouldn't I be doing the same thing for my own athletic career and going and seeing the experts in the fields that I'm trying to compete and perform? That's definitely something that once I worked through that in my own mind, it was a really easy decision to go and hire a coach. And I definitely recommend it for a lot of people, is to go and explore those options, and particularly for coaches who are competing themselves. A lot of endurance coaches will race, whether it be triathlon, they're marathon runners or cyclists, whatever it might be. I absolutely recommend you go and get someone else to coach you, even if it's just for a short period of time, just so you can, one, get a difference of opinion, different style of training, philosophies, you can discuss ideas. It can be a really powerful tool that way. But if anything, like I said, it just takes all of that excess responsibility off your shoulders, so you can just worry about being an athlete and sort of switch off from that professional side of things. A really positive coach-athlete relationship like that is really, really effective. And that's why all the best athletes in the world have coaches. Like, it's very, very rare at the elite level to see an athlete succeed completely on their own. Someone who's got a really solid relationship with a coach who understands that athlete and their needs and the demands of the sport, etc., all of those little factors end up becoming a really powerful tool to be able to see how can you maximize that individual's performance. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an insight. Nice little short one today around my thoughts on hiring a coach for the first time. Let me know in the comments down below. Are you being coached at the moment? Are you thinking about getting a coach? What are your experiences with coaches versus being self-coached? Pros and cons. Really happy to open up the floor and sort of discuss this down in the comments below. So let me know what you think down there. Really great to be back on the channel making videos again. Really enjoying this process and hope for a really big 2023. We're getting very, very close at this point in time as I'm recording this video. Very, very close to 5,000 subscribers, which is absolutely unreal. Little achievement over the last couple of years being up here on the channel. So really looking forward to what 2023 has to bring. I don't have any training this afternoon, but nice sunny day outside, summer in Melbourne. I'm going to head to the beach. I'm going to leave it there, and we'll see you in the next one.